Welcome to the Riverfront Bengals show, where we come to you every Thursday to discuss the week that was and the days to come for your beloved Cincinnati Bengals. We are the very show recently recognized as the number 3 most dangerous podcast in the island country of Barbados. I'm Nate Dawson. He's Joe Farsing. We are your hosts. Joe, how the hell are you, my friend?
I am ready for playoffs to get ready to rock and roll, man. Personally, I'm doing great. What about yourself, bud?
Oh man, you said the magic word. It is playoff season in Cincinnati, and it is an exciting time to be a fan. But before we dive into the Bengals' Week 18 win over the stupid Baltimore Ravens and preview their first round playoff matchup against the still stupid Baltimore Ravens, if you would be so kind, go give us a like, a follow, a subscribe, wherever it is that you watch or listen to this podcast. And we are available everywhere. Joe, you said it. Playoff time, baby. Quick question on a scale of 1 to 10. How are you feeling about this week's matchup and the Bengals' chances overall?
Going into this week, or at least starting on Monday, when there was thought, Lamar is going to be back, he's holding out for the playoffs, whatever. Figure about a 7 out of 10. I'm still confident the Bengals are the better team, but now we're on Wednesday. Lamar still hasn't practiced. Snoop Huntley was limited. He still has some tendonitis or some issue in his shoulder. Mark that up to about 9.5 of how confident I think that I am for this Sunday's game. If they don't make mistakes, they're winning. We'll get into that at the end of when we get down to our game preview. But
what about for their Super Bowl chances?
Confident, like cautiously optimistic. I mean, this is a better team. This is a better team than made the big game last week or last week. Well, made the big game last year. Like you can't dispute that. But a lot of things went right for that to happen, and a lot of things are still going to have to go right for them to make the Super Bowl this year. They had a tough road to travel. You're probably going to have to go to Buffalo, and from there, then go to Kansas City. So, cautiously optimistic, but more cautious or more confident than I was this time last year.
Yeah, I'm with you. And how dare Lamar Jackson and the Ravens take away one of my favorite talking points for this week's episode, which is going to be, what do we do against Lamar? Well, we might not have to find out, but we'll get into that here in a little bit. Before all that, we did have a football game this past Sunday, and I'll be honest with you, Joe. I don't know how much we need to go into the details, how deeply we need to analyze it, because I don't think that Cincinnati really pulled out all the stops to try to win the game. I mean, they did win the game. We can start there, but it didn't seem like they were showing all of their cards. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Baltimore only, they were out several guys on offense. Defense ran basically just a handful of standard. They didn't throw a whole lot of wrinkles. Luzo's going to have something fancy cooked up, and he didn't really show any. On offense, T even said like they stayed pretty vanilla. There's the schemes and a lot of the schemes and passing plays that they called were ones that they used earlier in the year. I think they just didn't want to show in person. It's one thing that that footage or that film's on tape for the Ravens to see, but it's another thing to actually put it in front of them on a game that ultimately not necessarily was meaningless, but wasn't the most important game. So they held back a lot of stuff. So it matters that they got the win, but they weren't going to go out and throw a whole kitchen sink, to make sure they got that dub. So.
Yeah, that's right. So to recap a little bit, Cincinnati did win. What was the final score? 27-16.
Yeah.
Barely covered that spread, which is all they needed to do. They were facing some guy named Anthony Brown, I think, who we probably will not see again. But who knows? We actually might see again. We'll talk about that in a minute. But, yeah, it really seemed like they ran a lot of the same plays and styled their offense the same way they did back in Week 5. It was just kind of a weird game. They Baltimore played most of their defensive starters, but they were missing a good chunk of their skill position players on offense. I don't think there's too much to take away from it. The team showed up after what was about as unique of a week of preparation as you could ever imagine. I don't think they knew, listening to Joe Burrow, who they were even going to be playing until Wednesday. They weren't sure how the NFL was going to handle that. And we definitely want to get into a little bit of that since we didn't, have a regular episode last week. But let's take a moment real quick to note Damar Hamlin back in Buffalo. All things trending in a positive direction. So
he was discharged from the hospital. He's home. He's home. Discharged from the hospital.
And I don't know how his wife or whoever he lives with cooks, but I'm sure it's better than hospital food. So
they cook better than Russ.
Love that for they definitely cook better than Russ. Imagine a worse situation like, hey, you're getting better, we're gonna send you home, but Russell Wilson's doing the cooking. Get out of here.
Let's ride.
So yeah, it was a weird game. The whole game to me just kind of felt off. They sort of did what they have done so many times this season, and they played one good half and one really weird half. Did you feel that way? I mean, it just seemed like they were clicking in the first and then lost control a little bit in the second. What do you think?
Yeah, and that's kind of been the script for the last couple of weeks. Again, you don't know what to take from this week's game, because it being the weird situation with knowing that this is probably the team you're going to play in the next week. You've got the division wrapped up. Also, with the weird week ahead, it clearly T. Higgins was clearly not right. I don't want to say in his head, but like he was off. He was 7 targets, 1 catch. Yeah. I mean, there were a couple of drops. He was just out of sorts. You don't want to say he was still thinking about the play or anything, but I understand, and hopefully getting that week under your belt, he's going to be ready to go.
Yeah,
normal headspace.
Completely understand. And on top of everything that he must have been dealing with for that past week, he also these guys are professionals. They're regimented. He didn't have his routine. There's this whole series of unknowns that went on. You feel for T, and yeah, like something seemed off for sure.
Yeah, and it's again, they looked dominant in the first half. Offense was moving the ball pretty easily. Defense was great. They get the strip sack fumble from Hendrickson and Osai falling on it. Yeah, 4 turnovers. I mean, the defense did what it played pretty well. They gave up a little more on the run than I would have wanted to, and Anthony Brown actually threw for more yards than Burrow, which I think a lot of people would have won a lot of money if they laid money on that.
Yeah, right.
As an aside, Anthony Brown looked like, for an undrafted rookie this year, he looked like a cromulent quarterback. His throws seemed relatively on time. Yeah, he made a couple mistakes because he's a rookie undrafted free agent making his first start against the defending AFC North champions, but he looked like a decent quarterback. Like, I think he's probably a better option for them than Huntley anyway. So
his most experienced receiver was like Sammy Watkins, I think.
Yeah,
which tells you just about everything you need to know about the uphill battle he was fighting. Yeah, you mentioned T. Higgins looking a little bit off. Our boy Joseph Lee Burrow seemed a little bit off too. He missed T. Higgins on what was not only about as clear cut of a touchdown as you could ever ask for in the NFL. It also cost me the third leg of a 3-leg parlay that I had a tidy $10 on that would have won me about 80. So, Joe, I'll expect a Venmo any day now. It's kind of rude of you, but he didn't have a bad game. He doesn't have the money. I don't think he just.
Yeah, he doesn't have the money. He invested in a farm. I mean, that money's already spoken for some Iowa farm.
You beat me to the punch. I was going to bring that up at the very end of the podcast. Let's do it now. Joe Burrow bought a farm, and Sam Hubbard's involved. Blake Griffin and Blue Jays pitcher Kevin Gausman are all involved.
There are a lot of people involved in this collective. I guess it's something through an agency or something. They got them all together. But yeah, they bought. I don't know the specifics, but yeah, they bought a $500,000 farm and are going to lease it out at a or $5 million. Yeah, $5 million farm.
$5 million farm.
And they're going to lease it back to farmers.
Apparently, they're looking to acquire more, and just from like a real estate and asset vantage point, it seems like a pretty smart play. Like, if you're going to invest in something, getting good people to invest in farms is something that I can get behind. But when I was going through my rundown of Bengals news for the day, Joe Burrow and Sam Hubbard buying farms in Iowa was not on there. So good for those guys. If they want some further outside investment, Joe and I will contribute $11 each. I would have contributed more if you'd have hit T. Higgins with that pass. But yeah, Joe was a little bit off, and he admitted as much. I think that he handled that at the podium better than you could hope for. He was accountable, and he said, "I usually don't miss those. Wait, no, I never miss those." Or I'm paraphrasing, but he's like, "We're gonna enjoy this win, but also I've got to be better." And you love hearing that from your star. What do you think?
Yeah, if any of you saw the video of Jamar Chase's Instagram Live, you hear Joe in the background saying, "I played like shit. I'm sorry. I need to do better." Basically apologizing to the wide receivers because he missed them a couple of times. And T's like, "Dude, you're good, man. You're okay. Like you don't you don't need to keep apologizing. You've more than you got a few ducats in the bank to lay to lay a dud every now and again."
Yeah, you've got a bit of a leash. Yeah, there's a great clip going around of Joe on the sidelines. I think it was after the touchdown to Jamar Chase when he gets dapped up by everybody. Then he takes a deep breath and sees T. Higgins and goes over there and just hugs him and puts his head on his shoulder.
Yeah, that was the very play before was the wide open touchdown that he missed. Yeah. Well, and then when he's at the press conference again, how long is your guys' window to window for a championship? As long as I'm on the team. That's how long the windows are. Can you imagine? Yeah. The amount of confidence, cockiness, short of arrogance, but to say that and truly believe it, he's not saying it just, blowing, cigar smoke up everyone's ass. He legitimately believes, and with good reason, that Bengals are a contender for the Super Bowl every year. And that's how it is in the NFL. If you have a top-notch quarterback, you're a contender. It doesn't matter who you have around you. How many scrubs has Aaron Rodgers brought to the playoffs? I mean, he's had Devontae Adams as the only wide receiver the past 5 years that he had that wasn't, just some random auto-generated name off Madden.
Right. I actually had the same answer as Joe Burrow when I got interviewed by a newspaper when I was playing high school basketball. The difference being that the question was, how long are you guys going to be one of the worst teams in the district?
So I thought the question was going to be I thought it was going to be how open is the guy you're guarding, and he's windows really wide open.
This is what I told the guy.
You know something? You suck.
Yeah, love Joe Burrow. Even with that game, nothing to worry about, nothing to take away. You mentioned the Bengals the Ravens being able to run the ball successfully. I don't take anything away from that either. I think it was just a fluky sort of, just weird game, weird flow. I mean, you're right. It's a little bit concerning. Like you mentioned, J.K. Dobbins and Lamar weren't in the lineup, but that's not going to happen when DJ Reader is your anchor. So not a ton to take away. Anything else from Week 18 that you feel like we need to point out?
Trey Hendrickson is just an absolute animal. I mean, we knew that. We knew that 2 weeks into his contract last year. He played a total of 18 snaps. If you would have just listened, yeah, exactly. It just, I don't pay attention to, I'm not looking at jersey numbers from play to play. I see that stuff at the end of the game when they show the snap counts. I swear they said his name 15 different times, and he was in on 15 total passing plays. 2 sacks, 2 hurries, the forced fumble that Osai recovered. He had a 91.3 grade at PFF. I mean, just how much bigger of an impact can you make in limited time? And speaking of Osai, how great has he been? He is good enough that that these guys, that Hubbard and Hendrickson, can take play. That they can sit them for a few plays and rest them up, so they're not having to run their ass into the ground. Last year, they didn't have that. Hendrickson and Hubbard had to play every snap in the playoffs. They didn't have a decent backup off the edge. Osai has given them good pass rush and decent run stop capability off the edge too. So just the depth of this team is building and continuing to build. It's just it's very impressive and very, very much needed. I mean, that guys are going to come and go. Guys are going to get hurt. Guys are going to, contracts are going to expire. They can't keep everyone around. And seeing the guys behind them fill in capably, I mean, that makes you just feel that much more confident just for the long-term future and the long-term window of this team. I mean, it's wide open. Guys are going to leave this after this year, and they're still going to be okay.
Yeah, that's a really important point. We knew going into this season, at least we expected that the ceiling of this team was going to be much higher based on the roster compared to last year. Last year was a pretty fun year. I don't know if you remember, but they kind of made the Super Bowl. But while we always talked about the ceiling being a lot higher, what we're seeing now, which is having as much, if not more of an impact, is that the floor is also way, way higher.
Absolutely.
Their bad days are now games that they still have a chance to win. I mean, look at their 4 losses. It's all games they could have won when everything else went wrong. And
with the exception of the Cleveland game.
Yeah, well,
but even that, there were extenuating circumstances. I mean, that's you find out that day your damn coach dies, and still, I still haven't heard. And again, you don't need to have to dissect every single game, on a national level. But like even that game, they played like crap, and understandably so. Like one of your coaches, one of the guys in your locker room, dies that day, and you find out about it. It's going to put a little bit of a damper on your spirits.
Yeah. Also, right after Halloween, and it's important to remember these are mostly men that are just out of college and are still going out and celebrating Halloween in some capacity, looking at potential mates in lovely outfits and Jello shots in syringes. So, yeah, we can chalk that up to some extenuating circumstances. You mentioned Trey Henderson, and man, we can't talk enough about that. I couldn't believe it. If you would have asked me what Trey's best game of the season was, I would have said Week 18, without realizing that he only played 18 snaps. Was nuts. I thought he played the whole game. I didn't realize this until after the fact. I think there's a solid argument to be made that despite the numbers, despite the sack numbers specifically, he's having a better season this year than he did last year. Everybody likes the flashy sack number, but he has been a rock all season long. It's been awesome. Jesse Bates, also really, really good game. That he's excellent coverage. January Jesse might be back. Bring it on. Go get yourself paid, young fella. We need that from you. Other than that, I don't know. I don't have too much else to touch on. We can get into our studs and duds real quick. Does that sound good, or is there anything else you want to point out?
Well, just the whole thing for kind of a cap around for the entire year for Henderson. He was the number 10th overall graded out edge rusher in the entire NFL. And again, most of the guys ahead of him had a lot more sacks, had a lot more production, but his pressure rate and the amount of hurries that he forced, they're on par with pretty much anybody else.
He also had a broke ass wrist.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry.
How many of those other guys? How many of those other guys play with a broken, wrapped up to hell wrist on it? You know what I'm saying? Bandage the hell wrist.
Madness, dude. Trey is a stallion. And unfortunately for him, I know that his roster bonus was probably tied to this, so we got to apologize to you, Trey. But you did not get the stud of the week. And not only is the stud of the week someone else, but it's also brought to someone else. Well, it has been Olivia Newton-John's stud of the week. I've been getting some pushback. Apparently, I'm the only one out there that loves Olivia Newton-John. So we're moving on this week. And this is the first ever Joe Farsi nominated Vicky Valancourt stud of the week.
Hey, stud.
Plus, it's a much more fitting clip. I mean, it's from a football movie. I mean, that makes more sense than having. Yeah, it makes much more sense. Anyway, stud of the week, Max Sharping came in to relieve Alex Kappa after he got his ankle rolled up. We'll get into more about that later, but he actually posted the best run and passing grades of any lineman on the team. That doesn't say a lot because if you look at the game, like the offensive line was pretty bad, but the right side, Adeniji was fine, filling in for Collins, and Max Sharping did a very good job. So, again, anytime you get more than just a sieve at an offensive line spot from reserve. I mean, you're coming out ahead from what expected. So good job, Max.
I was pumped when I saw that you wanted to nominate Max Sharping for this because I think people they sort of misunderstand what we're dealing with. The team wishes that Alex Kappa was playing. Let's not mistake that. Yeah. He is very, very good. But let's also not discount Max Sharping. He's not a bad player. We talked about this when they signed him, that at the time it didn't really make sense. Why was this guy actually available? He was a 4-year starter in Houston. Turns out he was due a $2.3 million roster bonus. The Texans thought that they could sneak him through waivers and re-sign him because, as I think it was Jay Morrison at The Athletic was pointing out, a lot of these teams are just bad at managing their cap space. Well, the Bengals weren't. So they had the space and the ability to sign this guy. They were savvy in that moment. He's not an all-pro by any means. But we're not talking about last year's offensive line. He is an excellent, excellent, excellent backup who should be able to hold his own as a starter. So I think that it's good to recognize him, and it's good to get that out there that while there is certainly going to be a drop-off from Alex Kappa, Max Sharping he's a pro. Like, he's a dude. He's a real dude.
Yeah, he graded out as a middle-of-the-pack offensive guard the last couple of years, and that's kind of what they were getting from Kappa anyway. So, and again, that's just another benefit of the Bengals managing their cap better than any other team. Yeah, everyone would complain because they don't they don't blow out the cap given these huge outsized front-loaded contracts and then have to cut half the team to try to get back in reasonable salary cap shape. They were able to go out and they had a couple extra $1 million at the end of training camp to sign Max Sharping when, again, that was a smart move by the Texans to try to sneak that through because most teams didn't have the ability. Bengals were 31st out of 32 teams in waiver priority. And I guarantee 15 of those teams ahead of them could use someone of that caliber and would have if he would have been able to come on a cheap veteran minimum contract. But Bengals had the ability to pick up this whole contract. So,
yeah, no
smart.
No team in the league doesn't want a guy like Max Sharping as depth.
Yeah.
A bunch didn't want him at $2.3 million. The Bengals could afford that. It was awesome. And we all remember years and years of Bengals fandom when they never would have spent that money for a guy like that. So let's be thankful for that in the moment. But I guess we have to have a dud. So let's see what what needs to be said about that.
Yes! Randy Watson!
That boy is good. Good and terrible.
I'll never get tired of the clip, but it didn't really apply this time because in the clip, he obviously says, that boy's good. This week's dud's not good. My dud of the week is Roger Goodell and the entire stinking NFL. I have gone about a million different directions on how they handled this situation, and in hindsight now this debacle. There's always the human element, right? Like, there was never going to be a perfect solution. Somebody had to be the odd man out. Hamlin is getting better and trending upward. Let's focus on that. No matter how you shake it, the Bengals got the short end of the stick. It didn't make sense the way it was handled from a Cincinnati perspective, and anybody who griped about it certainly had a reason to. Personally, I tried not to, but eventually I couldn't handle it anymore. The more I dove into it, the more annoyed I was, and that was before Alex Kappa got injured. Because if the NFL would have just followed the damn rules that they created for situations like this, then there is an extremely high likelihood that Alex Kappa, amongst other starters, would not have been playing in Week 18. Would have been resting, would have had their legs kicked up, maybe cigar in hand already, maybe chain smoking cigars because they could have had the luxury to do that. But instead, we are having this conversation right now. So I must say, on behalf of myself and Randy Watson, screw you, Roger Goodell. I'm sure you have a thought or two.
Just a couple. And here's the thing: anytime anyone tried to mention anything, and especially, I mean, stay off the social medias, but I run, run the account and everything, so I'm on there. And anytime we say like, "Oh, well, the most important thing is DeMar Hamlin's health," and someone died on the field, two things can be true at the same time. Like we can all, thoughts and prayers, and donate money to his charity, and but that's a person thing. This is business, and a multi-billion-dollar business. And you had rules in place for extenuating circumstances 2 years ago before COVID. They put these fucking rules into place. If they had to if the game had to be no contest, they weren't able to get a game in because of COVID or whatever. They didn't specify these rules are only for COVID-19. These are the rules in place in case a game had to be declared no contest. You would go off of win-loss percentage. Now that would suck for the for the winner of the Bengals and Bills game, because whoever won that game, if the Bills won, they'd be the number one seed overall. Given that they win in week 18. If the Bengals win, they're the number 2 seed and have a chance to number 1 seed. I'd have been okay if they'd have just stuck with the rules. Okay, fine. Bengals are going to be the number 3. They didn't get that game in. These are the rules. Fine.
Yeah, it's a lot more palatable if you just follow the rules that they created in the past.
2 years ago. These aren't archaic rules that they set in 1971 when Chuck Hughes of the Lions died on the field and they played the last 61 seconds, which is still really fucking weird when you think about it. Guy actually died on the field. And then with a minute left in the game and they played the extra minute. That's really weird and macabre, and kind of feel bad for his family. Like, okay, just shovel him off to the side. They get a snowplow and just push his carcass off.
Little known fact: Roger Goodell, also the commissioner.
Yeah. But then they put in these rules that, for the sake of fairness, or because the Bills lost out on, would have been the number 1 seed and lost out, or they put in the caveat for the Bengals and the Baltimore that, yeah, the Bengals are the champion of the North, but the Bills or the Ravens could have, if the Bengals would have lost, and if the Bengals would have lost again. So they're banking on, if the Bengals lose 2 games in a row when they've won 7 in a row, then it wouldn't be fair to the Ravens that they would have beaten the Bengals twice and still, and not have had a home playoff game and not have been the champion. So they put in the stupid coin flip, which we haven't talked about the touchdown celebration, and we'll have to, because that was just great. And then they put in the caveat for the Bills and the Chiefs that if those two teams, if they finish 1-2 and those are the 2 teams, then it's going to be a neutral site AFC Championship game. Oh, and maybe if the Bengals were to somehow leap into second place, and if the Bills and Chiefs lost, then there'd be a coin, or the Bengals and Chiefs game would be a neutral site game. But so many things had to be put in a much more realistic possibility for all the other playoff teams, but the Bengals. And it's just, people wonder why we have a complex about, inferiority or whatever you want to call it. It's because of shit like this. This constantly happens. Even when it comes to penalties and fines. You see the 2 plays during the Pittsburgh game. Miles Jack diving on top of Joe Burrow when he slid, after a play, or George Pickens using himself as a headfirst torpedo at on the hands team at the end on Tyler Boyd, and any other team. If that happened to any of the other 31 teams, those guys would have huge fines. Happened against the Bengals, no fine. It's just stupid shit like that. That, again, I'm a fan of one team out of the 32, so I'm going to see things a little more slanted, because how would I not? But this is the shit that you deal with. You had 1 decade of where they were awful, and then everybody shits on you. Like, you don't get benefit of the doubt. I'm ranting. I'm a lifelong Reds and Bengals fan, so I'm used to shitty performances. But it's
three
just
big takeaways here.
Yeah.
1, Joe is a Bengals homer, which is part of the reason we love him. 2, Twitter, not a good space for nuanced conversation. And 3, all this could have easily been avoided by the league following literally their own rules instead of making crap up on the fly. They didn't, and here we are. Thankfully, in some levels, Kansas City did win their game, so the fight for the 1 seed was didn't affect the Bengals as much, but whatever. We can talk till we're blue in the face about that. But let's look at some of the consequences of this. There is some injury news that we need to touch on. The biggest one being Alex Kappa. We've already gone in depth about that. Last I saw, Joe, they were saying it's almost 100% that he's not playing against the Ravens in the wild card rounds, but there's still some question about when or if he might return in the playoffs. Did you get anything else out of the pressers today?
Yeah, it came to there's no structural damage to his ankle. Thankfully, it was his ankle and not his knee. Because when you saw the injury, it didn't look good. It was clean play. Volson came and kind of double teamed the guy that Karras had and just blocked him sideways, but he fell in right on Kappa. And again, I can't believe that he didn't hurt his knee there. It's not broken or anything. He's in a boot on those little scooters. Yeah, he's definitely out for this week. From what I heard outside of the organization, that he's probably out for the entire playoffs. There's a chance when they play in Super Bowl that he's got a chance to make that game. But at least for the next few weeks, they're going to be rolling with Max Sharping at right guard. So
yeah, so we'll be keeping you all posted as much as we can as we get information on that. If we get it, I'm sure they will be as tight-lipped as they can be. There's no point in spoiling that for your opponents. But get well soon, Alex. You're an important part of the team. You're one of the main reasons we are able to have this conversation in the playoffs right now. So we'll see what happens going forward. The other big one was T. Higgins. It came out that he had a hip pointer.
Yeah,
I think, which I didn't notice it during the game, but there was a report yesterday talking about how truly painful it was, and it's something they'll be keeping an eye on. I think he was out of practice today. What did you see about that?
Yeah, there really wasn't any word about the injury itself because he was designated as being out with an illness today. So tomorrow, might give a little more clarity as to whether he's good to go. I was surprised when I heard he had a hip pointer because the only time I saw him get hit was when he got and I can't remember who it was on Baltimore. Someone laid in him. It was a clean hit, but hit him really, really hard in the midsection and knocked the air out of him. I don't know if I'd have to go back and when I rewatched the All 22, I didn't pay attention to see if he landed on his hip awkward or something after that. But they said the bruise is on the outside of the hip, so it's a little more painful because you've got pads and everything rubbing on it. So I think it'll probably end up being a game time decision whether he can pain management, because that's something that's not really necessarily going to get worse. It's just whether you can tolerate wear and tear on it for 4 quarters.
Right. Definitely something we'll monitor. T is so important to this team. We don't need to belabor that point. But I think that about wraps it up for any sort of recapping that we needed to do. But let's get on to some fun stuff, which is the playoffs.
Playoffs?
A matter of days. I meant to pull the clip of Allen.
I know, we should have had Jim Moore clip.
Yeah, we should have both of those. I messed it up. That's on me. I will be next week's dud because the Bengals are going to play perfect, and we won't need that. So,
to me, you're always the dud, Nate.
Oh, wait. Here, son of a. So the Bengals win the AFC North. They end up with the 3 seed in the AFC behind the 1 seed Kansas City Chiefs, the 2 seed Buffalo Bills. And then I guess the 4 seed is the Jaguars, and there's 5 is the Chargers, 6 is the stupid Ravens, who we are playing again. After everything got laid out, everything was finalized. I'm going to pull up a graphic here for those watching of the playoff bracket. How did you think the Bengals roadmap stacked up compared to other division winners?
I mean, when you're the I was going to say when you're the 3, you're going to have kind of a bit of expected to have a lot more of a difficult path to hoe, because you're going to have your first game you're going to be favored because you're playing the 6, but again, if seeds hold, then you immediately go travel to the 1 seed or to the 2 seed, which means playing in Buffalo. I mean, Buffalo's good at every. Doesn't matter if you're in Buffalo or any. They're just a damn good team. I think they're the best team in the NFL. You get through that gauntlet, and then you're potentially likely facing Kansas City Chiefs, And again, like Kansas City in Arrowhead, they're the second or third best team. I think that they and the Bengals are, right neck and neck. It's unless you're the 1 or 2 seed, it's what's going to happen. But Bengals can win and have won everywhere, so there's no reason to think they can't. But it's need to play. You need to play your best. You need to make sure that you stay as healthy as possible, and that stuff is all fluke. But there's a lot of luck has to go into it. So
that's true. I think there is an argument to be made that Cincinnati has the toughest road ahead of any division winner in either conference. It's certainly made it a little bit better if Lamar Jackson doesn't play, because if he does play, then having to go up against a potential Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes gauntlet to get to the Super Bowl is obviously not impossible. I think what we have shown throughout this season is that when you look at these matchups head to head, we have liked Cincinnati in almost every single one. I mean, I think we've only picked them to lose once or twice this year. And of course, there's a little bit of homer bias that's going to play into that. But it's largely because man to man, Cincinnati matches up really, really well with almost every other team. But you like that one sort of cakewalk, the one gimme in the playoffs, and it seems like a lot of teams have that. And maybe Cincinnati does against the Ravens in this first round. But one thing I'll say about the Ravens is they are never an easy out. No matter
they are feisty.
Who is behind center, that defense is going to come, and they are going to come hard. It's going to be a physical game, and we'll get into that specific matchup in a little bit. But I just thought that it was interesting that if Cincinnati scores one or two, I mean, even just one of those early season losses, those stupid losses, they're not in this position. So we said it all season long. We hope those don't come back to bite them. And it didn't for the division, but perhaps it did for their final playoff positioning. So we'll be keeping an eye on that.
I'd say they still finished 12-4. They had a hell of a season. That's about as good, looking at their schedule. Now, granted, it should have been 12-5 or 13-4, but this is right around what a best case scenario schedule looked like. And even with dropping those early games, when you look at if Lamar Jackson plays, Josh Allen's the only non-MVP quarterback that they'll be facing. Like, he's the least accomplished quarterback that they likely be facing from here until the Super Bowl. I mean, that tells you right there.
This season, he'll have 2 top 3 MVP finishes. Like, he's
exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's not because he's not an outstanding quarterback, but Lamar's got his MVP. Mahomes has his. Allen will finish, top 3 or 4 this year, and that's the worst quarterback least accomplished quarterback. Damn.
Yeah, that's right. So it's going to be tough, but we think that the Bengals are up for the challenge. They've shown that they can do it. They can beat any team they play. Will they? Time will tell. So on that note, why, Joe, do you think that the Bengals will win the whole damn thing?
If they make it to the Super Bowl, then they would have played all the toughest teams. San Francisco's a good team. Philadelphia's a good team. Don't get me wrong. Those teams are the 4th and 5th best teams in the NFL, and 4th and 5th best teams in the AFC. If they were in the other league, I mean, clearly the 3 best teams all year, because it's a quarterback-driven league. Chiefs, Buffalo, Cincinnati, and they already beat Kansas City. They're sure as hell ready to beat them for the 4th time in a row. And again, it's if you get there, it's because you earned your way. You fought your ass off to get there. And again, they're due. Come on, City Cincinnati deserves it. It's been 32.5 years since any team in Cincinnati won anything of any note. We're due. The Reds aren't going to win. Apparently, they're going to win the World Series in 2032, according to MLB.com. I don't know if I've got 10 more years left. I'm only in my 40s, but who knows? I'm not waiting another 10 years.
Either way.
Yeah, just win the damn thing, Bengals. Yeah.
Well, if you ask me why they will, in fact, win the whole thing, it starts with those offensive skill position players. I think that in every game they play, going forward, Cincinnati will have the advantage with offensive skill position players as a whole. I mean, there could be a couple games where you can argue whether or not Joe Burrow is the best quarterback. I think he can be the best quarterback in any game he plays. He has played better than Patrick Mahomes head-to-head in the past. He may have well been on his way of doing that same thing against Josh Allen 2 weeks ago before what happened. But I think it starts with quarterback play, wide receivers, and even though the run game hasn't been there, a very, very good run game. The next big thing for me is just simply Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is a stallion. He is a stud horse. He is the horse that all the other horses, lady horses, go and mate with so they make better horses. Joe Burrow is a thoroughbred. That's what I'm trying to say. And I think as long as you have number 9 in your corner, we will not be extracting that clip for TikTok. That might be just what we need. I don't know. As long as you
what are the stud fees? What are we looking at for stud fees?
We'll have to find out.
Guaranteed $400 million. I mean, what?
He's eligible for that contract extension, so we'll see soon. I think as long as you've got number 9 behind center, then you have to feel at least pretty good about your chances. What are some other big must-go-right things in your mind?
I mean, this goes for all 14 teams in the playoffs. Health. You're going to need to stay. I mean, Bengals are equipped to weather injuries better than most teams because, again, you have that stud quarterback. They've played without Chase. They've played without Higgins. They played without Boyd for a bit. They played without Mixon. I mean, they had an absolute tissue paper thin offensive line last year, and they still made the damn Super Bowl. Defense, they're built strong up the middle. DJ Reader, BJ Hill, a linebacking core of Jermaine Pratt, Logan Wilson, and the safeties. That's, if you don't have shutdown corners, and not a lot of guys have. We had one. We had one too. He got hurt on Thanksgiving. If you're just solid and strong up the middle, you can do so many things. DJ Reader, the fact that he's not even he's like the 5th alternate to the Pro Bowl is just the most idiotic, asinine thing I've ever seen. These are people that only look at sacks as to to who's a really good player.
I'll only push back on that because he did miss those was it 4 games, 5 games?
It was like 5 or 6, but you look at his impact. He's still done more to help his team win than a lot of these other guys that are ahead of him. Again, unless you're Aaron Donald or Chris Jones, or a few select others that are 3. These guys are 3 techniques. These are totally different position than he is anyway. You just look at the difference in the numbers of the run games of how the Bengals run defense was when he was out. He is that good. He makes that big of a difference. Again, just strength up the backbone of that defense. What's that?
I said hard to argue with that. And you got if you're thinking about what needs to go right for the Bengals to win it all, you have to talk about that defense. And they have kind of stepped up in every big win exactly when they needed to, and they've been very opportunistic when it comes to turnovers. We've been a fan of teams far too many seasons when they seem to never, ever get that important turnover, and this team's doing it. So if they can continue that trend throughout the playoffs, that's a really, really good sign. Another thing that I noticed, and it was sort of mentioned, I heard it a couple times in the last couple of days, that the turning point happened in the Week 5 game against the Ravens. Now, the team has become amongst the best in the league in those short yardage goal line situations. Zach Taylor talked about how that's one of the most difficult aspects of coaching is figuring out what to call in those situations. And he just decided no more cutesy, fluffy BF, just win the one-on-one matches, design runs to take advantage of the O-line strengths, and hammer it home. And since Week 5, when they had that ill-fated, was it the Philly special followed by the shovel pass to Stanley Morgan Jr., they've been among the best in the entire league in short yardage goal situations. So if they can continue that trend, then I really, really like their chances. The only other thing that I want to point out is that Evan McPherson needs to be the Evan McPherson that we all believe that he is, can be, should be, will be. He's been a little bit shaky. So if he is the guy, anywhere close to the guy that they got last year, hopefully they don't rely on him as much as they did last year, but he's going to be important these next few weeks.
Yeah, plus side, I mean, he was 5 for 5 on kicks last weekend. Even with him being shaky and even with, his struggles, he's still been absolute money over 50 yards. So, I mean, his struggles are in the 40-yard range, which is really, really weird. It's almost like if they've got a 45-yarder lined up, you almost want them to just jump or take a delay, just push back 10 yards just to give him give him more comfort. My number one reason what needs to go right for them to win the Super Bowl, in each of the next 4 games, they need to outscore their opposition.
You know what?
Analysis you can only receive here.
You might be on to something there. Does anybody have Zach Taylor's phone number so I can shoot him a quick text, maybe a little Snapchat? Zach, bro, I got a plan for you.
Simple.
I love it. Well, we talked about what needs to go right, why they will. Let's at least touch on the negative side of that. If they bow out early, what would you anticipate went wrong? Aside from them not scoring more points, you asshole.
Right, exactly. I mean, come on. Honestly, I mean, what the main thing that could happen, Joe could just be called up to the heavens. The rest of us mortals are left below.
The rapture comes. Joe Burrow is taken. Everybody else gets to keep playing.
The clouds part, and the rest of us are stuck down here, left below. And then we're stuck with Brandon Allen, and it's proof that we've been living in hell this entire time. No, I mean, what could go wrong is same for all 14 teams. Injuries. Burrow and Reed are the two most indispensable guys on this roster. Again, you worry more about Reader because you're on defensive line. He already got hurt once this year, and there's so many collisions down there. You just worry about someone just falling on him backwards. Again, I'm not knock on wood. This is all same could happen to anybody on any team, but they're going to be in every game. Even if they were to lose, it's going to be a close game. There's no reason, what's going to go wrong is they have a porous offensive line. But again, we've dealt with that. Like Burrow is the second fastest quarterback getting rid of the ball. You see some of the magic he can make. Just how many sacks did he elude on the one run there in the first quarter? Like 5 minutes in, and he eluded 2 sacks from the same guy. Ran approximately 45 yards just to make the line of scrimmage, and then decided to run for another 7 yards just for the hell of it. So, again, I mean, this is one of the quarterbacks. If you don't have Josh Allen, who's a tank with a cannon of an arm, or Lamar Jackson, who runs almost like Barry Sanders, he's the quarterback you want behind there when the line breaks down.
Yeah, that's right. If you're asking me the same question, it looks like Lamar Jackson's not going to play. So I would have said that what could go wrong is that Lamar Jackson could just show up and go nuts, and this conversation ends well earlier than any of us wanted to. Also, I want to remind everyone out there listening, I hate the Ravens. So let's just keep that in mind. The Ravens are a good franchise, as much as I hate to admit it. So that could go wrong. T. Higgins' hip could be a bigger deal than we know right now. If that's the case, that's something you could certainly point to down the line. But for me, the biggest reason things could go wrong is that time and time again this season, Cincinnati has only played one good half. It's certainly been that way the last 3 weeks, last 3 games anyway, but it's been that way more often than not this season. They have really only put one game, I would say, that you could argue was a complete game together, maybe 2. So if they lose before the Super Bowl, I think that would be the least shocking sort of outcome to me, is that, we found out that it was another situation where they got out to a really big lead, and then, I don't know, do they relax or something, whatever it is, and let the other team hang around, or they came out a little bit flat, a little bit nervous, whatever it ends up being, and got into too big of a hole for them to come back from. So I think if we have to acknowledge the negative, that's probably what we're looking at. But we're not going to do that anymore, because we're just a matter of days away from the wild card round. Stupid Baltimore Ravens at Bengals, Sunday Night Football, and your Bengals open as 7-point favorites. What are some of
Up
the
to
key
8.
things you're looking at here? It's up to 8 now?
Yeah, it was. It jumped just after.
The Lamar
just
news, yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So if anyone got in when it opened at 6.5, if anyone got in at that, man, they're looking really, really nice right now.
Looking real good.
Also, don't take any gambling advice from me. I don't gamble. Do what you want, but I suck at it. So
Yeah,
don't
let's qualify that.
do not take advice from me.
Never ever listen to our gambling advice, but if you wanted to put your next couple mortgages down on a Bengals Bills parlay, you didn't hear it here. Joe, what are some of the big things jumping out to you about this this matchup that we're seeing for the third time? They split the regular season. I said the Ravens won in week 5, Cincinnati won in week 18. Pretty good argument. Cincinnati should have won week 5. What are you focusing on here?
Again, I mean, will they put two halves together for the first time in a month? I mean, I'm more worried about a slow start than we haven't seen it yet. We haven't seen it this year. We haven't seen a situation where they got out to a big lead, and then coasted down the second half and come back and bite them in the ass. I don't think that's likely to happen. I think that they would be able to turn it back on. I think the issue that could happen and what, how they've lost the games that they've lost was falling behind early and just not being able to scramble back to pick it back up. I mean, that's first 2 weeks. I mean, even though technically, yeah, they could have, should have, would have won week 1. They just dug to themselves too big of a hole they couldn't escape from. So again, if you don't have to be perfect both halves, just don't play like dog shit. You can play out, score 10 points, give up 10 points and a half. Cool. Like that's not great, but that's okay. We can do that. Don't go out and score 3 points and give up 3 touchdowns. That's when that's when you start to panic. That's when that can bite you in the ass. Yeah, sure. The other thing to worry about is the left side. Again, like that's all year that's been the weaker side because Collins, especially when Collins settled in and became back to being a road grader on the ground, and Kappa's been solid pretty much the whole year. Left side was fucking terrible this week. Williams and Volston just absolutely terrible. I didn't want to look at what their numbers were. Anytime their numbers have a red box next to it, that means not good. And both of theirs had red boxes, and I didn't look any further. You have backups on the right side of the line. The left side of the line needs to play a lot better. Teddy Karras is going to be solid in the middle. Again, we're not looking for you guys to look like Anthony Munoz and Max Montoya out there. Just don't suck, because you guys sucked last week. It didn't matter because Bengals are that much better, but you can't let Burrow have to run for his life play after play after play.
Yeah, you're right. I know you didn't want to look at the numbers, but I did, and in the 2 games versus the Ravens, Cordell Volson was created a 54.1 in the first matchup and 31.4 in week 18. He was the worst graded offensive player.
So they were both red.
Not going to cut it. If you want to look for any optimism, though Jonah was a 58.8 last week, he was Cincinnati's most highly rated offensive player in week 5 at a 74.1. So there is at least some reason to think that they will perform better than they did in week 18. And again, there were a lot of weird moving parts last week that could have affected those grades. It's hard to say. But it's a great point. It's going to be really important to keep an eye on is if they're dealing with replacements on the right and the left doesn't hold up, then we could be in for a long, long day. But hopefully it doesn't get to that point. We talked about Lamar. He hasn't practiced in a month, so it seems like he's not going to play. I get what he's doing with this whole contract situation, but I also what is you doing?
They're now, and I'm wondering if this may be his reps putting something out here, cynically, that he's still experiencing significant swelling in his knee. Then why wasn't that
the swelling, by the way?
Exactly. Except for Phillip Rivers, he's got 20 kids because of significant swelling. I apologize. I really don't.
No need.
Again, it's just really weird. And then today it comes out that Roquan Smith signs a 5-year, $100 million contract extension that month. What are you doing? What you're saying is you want like an absolute loaded defense. You're shipping out wide receivers. You're drafting. You had one of the best tight ends in the game. You draft 2 more tight ends this past year, and Likely and Kohler, who I both like. I would have loved for the Bengals to get them at some point, but and now you're paying a linebacker, an off-ball linebacker. You know, he's not a pass rusher, more than any other linebacker in history, with money that should be going to your franchise quarterback. Yeah, it's the weirdest situation. I don't understand it.
We'll dive into this in the offseason for sure, but it seems to me that they're focusing pretty intently on his lack of playoff success, and maybe there's something going on behind the scenes that we aren't privy to that leads them to believe he's just not the guy. But we'll get into that at a later time. Something that I'm keeping an eye on matchup wise is Joe Burrow versus Mike McDonald.
The lead singer of the Doobie Brothers?
Absolutely. They're actually frenemies, so it's not a full-on feud, but is he going to sing for Joe pregame? I don't know. Keeping an eye on it.
Awesome.
No, Mike McDonald, the rookie defensive coordinator for the Ravens, who's kind of had Joe Burrow's numbers so far. Granted, 2 matchups, but against every team in the NFL, every other team that Joe Burrow has played this season, his EPA, his expected points added per dropback, is 0.14. That's pretty good. You like that number. You're happy with it. Against Baltimore, it is negative 0.17. That is not good. He's figured something out. Their success against Joe Burrow, it's come without generating a lot of pressure or sacks or creating turnovers. Joe Burrow is actually better in all those metrics against Baltimore than he is against any other team, but his overall numbers are worse, which is kind of worrisome. They say that McDonald likes to show certain schemes pre-snap, just kind of switch them up last second and keep them off balance and try to confuse the quarterback. It's been successful so far, but there's also reason to believe that those just missed throws last week were Joe Burrow progressing and sort of figuring it out the more he sees him. And he's now seen him twice. So hopefully that won't be an issue. And it looks like Joe's kind of figuring stuff out. Another thing that I want to mention real quick is...
Can I interject real quick?
Yeah, please.
Would it be true to say that what a fool believes is that Mike McDonald would... What a Fool Believes is a Doobie Brothers song. You missed that. Damn, you're too young. Never mind. You can carry on.
Yeah, I'm sorry for. I'm supposed to have your back on that one. I did not have your assist. I apologize for unfamiliar.
I audibled and threw it out there. Sorry.
I'll brush up for next week. I want to mention the quote unquote dirty plays. The reason I throw up the quote marks is because, we're Bengals fans, so we're going to look at it from a different lens than other people. I don't want to go full homer and say that they were trying to hurt anybody. There were some ugly plays. There were some extracurricular activity, if you will. I don't think they were necessarily trying to hurt anybody, but I do think that they were very, very intentional about trying to get into Cincinnati's heads, trying to intimidate them, trying to play Ravens football in that way. And one thing I want to point out is that what I've been seeing out of Cincinnati media and out of the Bengals locker room, it kind of reminds me of some of the old Phil Jackson tactics. Phil Jackson was notorious that if he thought a player was getting away with anything in a series, he wouldn't go to the refs, he wouldn't complain mid-game, he would get in the media and he would mention these things. Like, so-and-so is holding on to jerseys, coming around screens. He's got his legs sticking out. He's little things like that. So just making sure it's part of the narrative leading up to game day, so it's fresh on the ref's mind. So I just want to throw that out there. Don't be surprised if some early flags get thrown against the Ravens and they sort of nip that chippiness in the bud in the first quarter and a half, and those flags go in Cincinnati's favor. Just throw it out there. Don't know if you have any thoughts.
I'm sorry, I lost you for a second. You kind of cut out.
Well, let's move on to my next topic, which is DJ Reader for president. Campaign still alive. Baltimore is going to run the ball. 45% of the time actually compared to 34% for Cincinnati. We don't know who the lead back is necessarily going to be, but DJ Reader is going to be important, and he's going to shove it up their booty hole and going to have a huge impact on the game. So that's all I've got as far as storylines and matchups. Anything else you want to touch on before we get to predictions?
No, I mean, you just hope that everyone kind of understands, that, maybe hopefully that is the game that they're playing. They're just kind of playing it out to the media, and they're not going to go get in trouble doing the old Bengal thing of trying to get in a pissing contest and, a dick swinging contest to see, and doing the Vontez perfect and getting a personal foul that's going to cost you something. This team has yet to show that they're going to do something stupid like that. The biggest wild card is Eli Apple because he's mouthy, but he's not one who's out there throwing a little hot sauce on an extra hit or playing cheap or dirty or anything. So I'm really not worried about anything like that. It's just you hope nobody gets hurt, trying, doing something stupid on either side.
Yeah, that's facts. We know it's in their minds in some capacity. We'll see how that plays out. But let's dive into some predictions, man. How do you see this game going?
When I initially made this pick and put it down, it was when everyone was kind of thinking that Lamar was actually going to play. I got it as 24-13 Bengals. I kind of feel like it's going to go two ways. Either the Bengals are going to lose from something stupid, or they're going to win by 3 touchdowns. Much more likely they're going to win by 3 touchdowns than anything else. Ravens offense isn't going to get much going with, again, whether it's Huntley, whether it's Brown, whoever. They're going to be able to run the ball a little bit. J.K. Dobbins is supposed to be back, but I think the Bengals are going to score defensive or special teams touchdown. Offense, I don't think the Bengals offense is going to look great because the Ravens have a really good defense, but they're not going to need to. They're still going to win comfortably. So like I said, I say 24-13, but I really don't feel that's how the game's going to go. I can see something more like 35 to 10, 35 to 16, somewhere along those lines, settling for a lot of field goals and 3s instead of 7s.
I love it. And that's where I'm going with this. I've got Cincinnati winning 32-16. They're going to come out firing after last week's physical game and take them to the cleaners. It will never be in doubt. Let's go. And then we can move on to some intense conversations about how the rest of the playoffs are going to go. And speaking of the rest of the playoffs, I want to quickly get your prediction. Get it out there in public, out in the open. Who do you have matching up in the Super Bowl?
I hate to say it because in history and all, but San Francisco is the best team in the NFC. Unless Brock Purdy realizes he's Mr. Irrelevant and the last pick of the 7th round and actually, throws a couple picks. I mean, they could lose to Seattle, but top to bottom, I think they're the most talented team in the NFC. So I've got them making Super Bowl 57. We've to 57 now. Yeah, wow.
Who will they be playing?
Certain team from Cincinnati. Say the Bengals.
Weird. I thought for sure you would go with your favorite team, the Chiefs. 3rd
time is a charm. We're gonna beat those gold and red colored assholes back to the Bay Area.
I love it. And had you chosen anybody else out of the NFC, I would have chosen the 49ers. But because I hate you and cannot choose the same team as you, I have to go. I'll go Eagles. I'll go Eagles just for the heck of it. But either way, Cincinnati's coming out on top. But we'll dive into that a whole lot more. And who knows, maybe we can do some shorter, sporadic podcasts throughout the week as news comes in and as we progress through these playoffs. But Joe, thank you so much, man. I had a freaking blast. I cannot wait for this game. It's so weird to be a fan of Cincinnati sports and to go into the playoffs with excitement, enthusiasm, and optimism. So I'm here for it. I hope everybody is, and I challenge everybody out there to enjoy it. Enjoy this ride unless Russell Wilson is the conductor. Any final thoughts?
As much as I love the Bengals now being a big national draw, I mean, you look at their broadcasts, and they pull huge numbers. It doesn't matter who their opponents are. Now they're playing in higher profile games. But, I hate being a Sunday night game. I liked last year that they were Saturday afternoon because you get it over with. You get the rest of the weekend to enjoy and to gloat. Whereas I'm going to be tense all day Saturday, all day Sunday until kickoff at 8:15 or 8:15 or 8:30, and that's just the tense, nervous ass way to deal with it. But they're going to come out winning anyway, so it'll be worth it.
Monday is going to be a blast.
Yes.
Joe, thank you so much, and thank you to everyone for listening and supporting the Riverfront Bengals show. Please remember to subscribe either on YouTube or in your favorite podcast app. Joe is tickling the keys over as the @TR Bengals show on Twitter. You can find us everywhere else, along with some Reds content at Riverfront Cincy on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I am at NC Dotson32. And for Joe Farsting, I'm Nate Dotson. Take it easy, y'all.